Okay, so hi all. So during this session, we will discuss these SharePoint updates, specifically SharePoint Online updates for June 2020. And as you can see that there are various updates ranging from smaller updates like file uploads to the larger updates for the development side. So let's talk about those updates one by one. So first one is the file upload size. So Microsoft has increased the maximum file size or maximum file upload size from 15 gigabytes to 100 gigabytes for individual files. So these limits applies to individual file being uploaded or synced and not to your total storage. So for any of the larger file that is a few gigabytes, it is still recommended to use the OneDrive sync app rather than using the website upload feature. But the good thing is that now the maximum increase size is from 15 GB to 100 GB for individual files. Second thing is acronym answers with Microsoft Search in SharePoint. So before we dive into it, let's catch up on the history of this acronym. So the users who often run into unfamiliar acronyms and abbreviations used by their organizations or within a team. So the terms that are specific to organizations or a particular team might be new to a people who move from one team to the another, or for those who work with the internal partners, or for for them who join the organization newly. So in that case, this acronym answers allow search administrator and editors to create a definitions for commonly used acronyms to help people discover its meaning. So search administrator can set up the editorial acronyms on the acronyms tab in the Microsoft Search Admin Center. And from there, you can define those acronyms and it can be used by everyone. So for example, I'm logged into my tenant. So from where we can get to those acronyms. So if you click settings, click Microsoft Search. So here under answers, you can see acronyms now. And over here, you can click add acronym, start the acronym. So this may be a smaller acronym like FAQ. Then the expansions will be like frequently asked questions. Then we will provide some kind of a description. And then there are two options like publish or save it to draft. If you publish it, then only user will be able to view it. So save to draft will be used whenever someone wants to review those acronyms and then only want to publish. So for example, someone can create the acronym but still have those in a draft state, and then after someone will review and then they will publish, and then only it will be available for everyone. So there are two status associated with each of the acronym, published and draft. So these are few of the acronyms I created, but at least I just created it less than 24 hours. But how it works is like when you go to Bing and you log in with your organizational account. In that case, if you try to search for any of the acronym which is here, for example, let's say we search for AKA. In that case, it should show that particular acronym here. But as I said, I did not create it well in advance, so those are not being shown here. But it takes up to 24 hours to get these acronyms reflected into search results. So all of your employees or teammates, if they are not sure of those acronym, they can come here, directly search in the Bing, and they will be able to get the meaning of that particular acronym. So this is one of the major update that has been rolled out. The next thing is enabling this communication site experience for classic SharePoint team sites. So this is an optional feature which allows SharePoint admins and site owners to enable the modern communication site experience on any of the classic team site. So we can make any of the existing classic team site as modern a modern team site. So there are few requirements like the site must be a classic team site that is not connected to any of the Microsoft 365 group. So that means the site is created with STS-0 site template. Second thing is like the site must be a top level site in the site collection. So it cannot be a subsite. Third one is The user who runs the PowerShell commandlet should have the full owner permission on that particular site. And lastly, it's like the site must not have any SharePoint server publishing infrastructure features enabled onto that particular site collection. So if you are meeting those criterias, you will be able to enable the communication site experience for the classic SharePoint team sites. So as an example, let's take an example of this particular site, which is a classic team site, no customizations to it. So what we can do is from PowerShell, or I have already connected to my SPO service, and then we can run this command enable SPO com site by specifying the URL of that particular site. As we hit enter, it takes few seconds, and within those few seconds, it allows us to transform our site to a new site. So now that this one is ready, probably we can just open it up in a new tab. So let me take this tab out. If I duplicate this tab and just move to classic team, in this case, now you can see that it is redirecting us to home1.aspx inside site pages. So this one is the same site, but now that it has got the flavor of modern communication site. So this is how you will be able to transform all of your classic SharePoint team sites to the modern communication driven sites. Okay. Next thing is site analytics. So this will help us to see that how much average time has been spent by people onto a given site. So Microsoft have added a new report onto the SharePoint site usage page. So probably let's move to that. So here I'm to a SharePoint site. If I move to site usage, so this details out the average time spent per user. So each site has this dedicated analytics page, and you will be able to trend line for the time people spend on site pages and news posts for ranging from 7 days to 30 days of period. The average metrics is calculated by comparing the total time spent on the page with the number of unique visitors on that particular page within that given time frame. So here you can see that the unique visitors have been decreased by 33% since last week, as I have selected last 7 days. At the same time, the site visits have been increased by 183% since last week. So as you select the timeline, it will show the result. So this is again a new feature. Again, in continuation with this, we have one feature which is still in development, but I wanted to highlight is that site analytics, cumulative analytics for the SharePoint hub sites. So as a background, SharePoint hub sites makes it easy to organize information and collaboration based on department, project, region, or a division. So this report provides site owners and the members of that particular site a cumulative insights into unique viewers, total site visits, top sites, then most of the popular content within that particular hub site. So again, this is still in development, but once it is rolled out, this is a hub site, and if you go to site usage, over here you will be able to see that filtration, so that you will be able to see the site usage data for hub and then a site usage data for a particular site. So this will be coming soon, but I just wanted to highlight this. Next thing is consolidated page for migration in the SharePoint Admin Center. So this is essentially the new migration landing page within SharePoint Admin Center, and it has everything you need, no matter from where your content is coming from. And then it is your one-stop shop for all of those files and contents into SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, and Microsoft Teams. So again, for here, if I go to SharePoint Admin Center, here we have the migration manager, but sooner here will be all of those options from where you will be able to see all of those sources at one place. But as of now, you can go to desktop tool, download that particular tool, and from here you will be able to migrate your content from SharePoint 2010 or SharePoint 2013. At the same time, if you're looking out for any of the cloud content migrations, Then in that case, you can enroll with the Mover, which is again taken over by Microsoft. And with this mover.io, you will be able to migrate your content from any of the cloud migration. So including Amazon Workdocs, Box, Dropbox, Google Drive. So this is again a cool feature that is coming out. Then there is a updates onto the SharePoint default site themes. So over the last year, SharePoint has embraced the new Microsoft Office icons, uh, and a large part of this change is the transition of SharePoint identity from blue to teal kind of a theme. So it signals the shift in the identifying the color scheme. So updating the SharePoint default theme from blue to teal is the final step for adopting this new SharePoint identity. So with this update, you will see all those classic and modern SharePoint communication sites as well as the team sites updated to the teal theme. So again, for example, if you have customized those, then this will not be applicable for you. So this will not impact your sites in a way beyond the changing the colors from blue to teal. So as you can see in the image, for example, if you had blue kind of SharePoint site, it will be just translated to teal. But if in case you have already any of the customizations done using site designs, site scripts, in that case, this will not apply. So this will be done automatically. So next question is, do I as a user need to do anything? So answer is no, the update is automatic and no action is required by admins or users. So if you decide to keep a blue theme or just want to change the theme, site owners can edit the theme and change the look panel. So this change can be made at any time, and each site will require a manual change. So for example, from here, um, we can go to change the look, and from here you will be able to change that look. So by default, this will have a teal site theme applied if you haven't customized. Otherwise, if you are still having this old site, it will be following the blue pattern. But all of those new sites being created will follow the teal pattern. So starting from June, sites that have not been customized will switch from blue to this teal and does not require any kind of an action from the user or the administrators. So new sites will create by default or use by default teal theme until you change or if you apply the custom site designs. So this change will not impact any custom themes or settings that you have currently installed and applied within your tenant. So we do not have any option to opt out for an administration perspective. So for example, if you have a classic publishing site and which hasn't been customized with a theme, so it will be impacted. So this table shows all of those criterias. So likewise, for example, if you have a modern communication site and it is not customized with a theme, then again there will be impact. Okay. Um, the last thing I wanted to point out is the .NET standard version of SharePoint Online CSOM APIs. So before I deep dive into it, so just a note I want to make is like it is always recommended to use the Microsoft Graph APIs whenever it is possible. But if you need to use capabilities which are not yet exposed within Microsoft Graph API, you might need to fall back to the SharePoint Online CSOM APIs. So there is a new version of this SharePoint Online CSOM NuGet package, which includes .NET standard version of CSOM APIs. So this enables you to take advantages of SharePoint CSOM API surface within your .NET Core based solutions. So which unblocks you from using the latest versions of Microsoft Azure services. So in a simple words, authentication is completely independent of CSOM library now. So since .NET standard applications now uses OAuth for the authentication, it's up to the developers to get the access token and pass it along with the call to the SharePoint Online. The CSOM library does not care how the access token was fetched. So whenever we are making any app only calls to SharePoint, we either can use Azure Ready app registration with a client certificate, or even we can use the older approach of SharePoint app only authentication created by appreg.new.aspx and as well as app inv.aspx pages. So let's see like how we can use this Azure AD app registration approach. So for that, I will, okay, let me close this down. Okay, so I will switch to the Azure directory, which is associated with my tenant. And once we go to app registrations, we have created one app here called as CSOM Standard App Registrations for SPO. And what we can do here is, firstly, we can specify the API permissions. So the permission here are being specified as full control onto a site, and then we can generate a certificate. So for example, if you want to create a certificate, again, you can fall back to the old code from PowerShell. So I have all that code mentioned onto my GitHub. So you can use this create self-signed certificate PS1 file, which is again provided by Microsoft, by which you will be able to create a certificate. So this file creates a certificate in both .cer and .pfx versions, but we can use pfx version because from there we'll be able to specify the private token also. So then once we have that certificate, we can upload that certificate here. And next thing is that we can upload that certificate to the certificate store under a personal certificate for a user who want to make or who want to get authenticated to SharePoint site. So once it is done, I have created one .NET application, and this application is using that app ID registration. So this is the client ID which is of that particular app registration, and this is the certificate thumbprint which we have got. And using this app ID and certificate thumbprint, we will be able to connect to our SharePoint site. Okay, because earlier in the earlier days when there wasn't any support for .NET Core, we used to have SharePoint online credentials where we used to pass the username and password, and from there we had a chance to connect to SharePoint Online. But with this, then we can create app registrations inside Azure and use that. So probably I can just run this. This is very simple code. I'm just connecting to a SharePoint site and just printing out the title. But how we are connecting is through app registration. So if I run this particular code, maybe we can fall through those debug points, which will make you very much clear about this implementation. So okay, it is running. All right. Is it waiting for somewhere? Yeah. So first thing is that we are getting the certificate from the local certificate store. So in the local certificate store, as of now, you can see that I have one certificate which is matching with the thumbprint what we have given. So this is that particular certificate. It gets that particular certificate and passes it to the next method, which gets the token out of that particular certificate. So from here we can get this long access token, and this token will help us to get connected to SharePoint online site. So as I continue through those debug points, using that particular client ID, thumb, and that particular token, we were able to create the context by which we'll be able to connect to SharePoint site. And then again, after this, it is a normal CSOM code that you can get to a web using the context. You can load that particular web, do the execute query, and there you will get the entire object of web, and from there you will be able to fetch the title which is being shown here. So this is very much simple. You just have to register your app inside Azure Ready, create a certificate, apply it at both places. First one is to the standard API which we have here, and the next one is in your certificate store, and that's it. You will be able to make a call to SharePoint Online. So I think, yeah, with that, I'm done from updates from my side.